Second Skin was an opening on the 25th of April that celebrated wearable art and wearable computing. And the idea behind it, the reason it was called Second Skin was because there was a recognition that people do have to wear clothing, either that or they get arrested, and that there's some new confluence going on. And what I found is when I started curating this thing is that it's a confluence of a lot of things. It's green, it's recycle, reuse, it's wearable computing, the idea that the San Francisco Bay Area has a lot of wearable computing going on. And it also turns out that it's incredible because it has so many fabulous women designers in the Bay Area. So contrary to a lot of the programming that we do here, sometimes you find that it's like men, women, women. This was all about women. And so it was a lot of fun. And I found out that that's where the technologically driven women were. People like Amanda Parks, who's currently at MIT, who created a dress that converts mechanical energy into electrical energy. So at the end of the day, you could power up your iPod, for example, things like that. Lisa Hoffman had a piece that included ping sensors, which is the same technology as sonar, and it's on a dress mannequin, and then it will turn towards whoever's closest to it. Leah Buckley we brought in from Colorado, who brought in this incredible new material, soft circuitry. It's fabric and it's also thread, which means everything that you sew into your outfit can start conducting electricity. And Stephanie Sandstrom, she's an interesting young artist who's exploring the many ways that you can take wearable computing and have it make some commentary about society or culture.
The name of the design is Women in the City. So it started out, I had this class for school. It was a sustainability fashion class, and for my final for it, I was concerned about air pollution. That was my topic, and basically I made a dress that is sensitive to the air around it. So when it's around pollution or air particulate, it'll morph or want to change. So it's a sign for the wearer and the people around the wearer that the air quality is bad and people shouldn't be breathing it. It's got a LED belt inside that is connected to this fire alarm here that's hidden in the brooch, and that is also connected to what's called a nitinol wire. It's a memory wire that you have to heat set, and it'll remember the shape that you've heat set it in. So the electricity signals this to change shape, and it turns the lights on. Yeah, it's pretty sensitive to cigarette smoke, car exhaust. It's pretty sensitive. I've drilled some extra holes into the fire alarm, so it's pretty sensitive.
So we had designers like Takehito Etahi. He embraced the opportunity 100% and decided that he wanted to. I had seen his Masticator piece, which is this rawhide piece where it counts as chewing. And then he came here and he said, oh my gosh, this is a great opportunity. So then he created a new piece called Parallax, which is sort of like sort of if you were able to put your eyeballs out about 3 feet on either side of your head, sort of like a hammerhead shark or something like that. And then another piece that he'd already done called Third Eye. So he had 2 existing pieces, and then he created a third one, especially for the show.
So this piece is called the Masticator, and what it does is it gives audio feedback, audio and visual feedback of chewing. And it has a number indicator that counts from 0 to 9, but it doesn't really count because it just loops around 0 to 9. And the meaning of it is it's about reminding of your eating and chewing rather than counting. About 10 years ago, when I was talking to my grandfather, he was 94 or something, and I asked him what is his secret of long life. And he said he chewed 100 times for each mouthful. During the research process of this Masticator, I found about Fletcherism, and Fletcher, who was the first dialectic faddist, and his fad is about, it was called choo-choo fad, and it's about masticating a lot of times to be healthy. And so that was like turn of the century fad. I think it was popular in England and America. And I think that's also gave the influence to what my grandfather was doing actually, because he came to Japan.
And Anastazia, otherwise known as Bad Unkl Sista, was one of a core of 3 designers that I stumbled into that were on Market Street. And they're a core group who are incredibly networked and supportive of each other's work, as well as being very different. Anastasia's work is primarily sculptural, has a lot to do with sort of, currently a lot of her outfits are insect inspired, and she also does a lot of butto dancing and performance, and she'd really like to start getting into museum work, so here she is.
The dance that you just witnessed is a form of butto. I've been practicing butto for 6 years. It is my main form of expression besides the costuming. My inspiration behind most of my costuming is, I guess, on my explanation of my costumes are Victorian Japanese alien insects. Most of my stuff starts with a base, and usually it always ends up with some sort of alien insect attribute. This piece started out as a very simple costume that was supposed to be the representation of blood, but of course it ended up with a stinger, and it has a huge spine that I actually forgot today that comes up the back and distorts my back.
What I found is that there's a lot of legs to this particular, especially the wearable computing. I think is going to be something that's really going to be a big art form. One thing I should say about that was interesting is how so many of the wearable artists, wearable computing artists, were interested in social networking, which is sort of a pushback to the isolation that people think about when they think about technology. This is all about connectivity in all sorts of ways.